Hello and welcome to Didcot Railway Centre. My name is Steve, I'm Product Manager for Accurascale. We're here today with Cook & Manor to take a good look at our Manor locomotives. We're here today to take a look at these 4 decorated samples that we have. They cover the entire history of the Manor, from as-built Great Western Green right there through to late BR lined green, as covered with withdrawal. Today I want to show you some of the detailed differences, so what changed throughout the Manor's history and what our model has captured. We also want to show you where these changes happen on Cook & Manor and some of the other lovely Great Western locomotives here at Didcot. So I think first we need to talk about what is a decorated sample, what are we using these models for, and what's the purpose for us and our factories in China. These models here are to show us the livery application, to make sure we have the colours right, to make sure the printing is in the right place, and make sure the real fine details are absolutely spot on. As you'll see here on the BR examples, the number on the smokebox doors is a little bit bold. By 0.1mm we've worked out, but just doesn't quite capture that precise look that we're looking for in our models. We also use them for endurance testing and to make sure they can survive the things that people are throwing at them on their train sets. The real locomotive here would have had a very generous minimum radius. These models here have to go on second radius. So today we'll look at some of the challenges that the model faces the real locomotive wouldn't have to go through. So what is the current status of the Accurascale Manor? We've previously shown the EP samples. These are the engineering samples that we used to test the model and highlight any issues that we face there. The decorated sample is now complete, been reviewed, and we've also completed the changes that we were making to the model. This includes upgrades to the speaker system in both the tender and the locomotive to make sure it has that sound at a good volume. We've worked very closely with Jamie Goodman once again to give you the absolute best sound that we possibly can, as shared by our friends at Hornby Magazine. We have also gone through all of the model to make it run through the train set curves and the challenges we face there, and also make sure that our model can be as accurate as possible while also managing to handle these tight bends. So we are now at the final approval for production. We have 6 to 8 weeks of assembly, followed by the shipment time from China to the UK for delivery the second half of this year. So let's take a closer look at these 4 models that we have here, ranging from the Fringford Manor here in Great Western Green, all the way through to Elstoke Manor in the lined BR green. Outwardly, there may not appear to be many changes to these Manors, but there's been a lot of internal tweaks to make sure we deliver the best Manor on the market. These include refinement of the speaker systems, not only to be in the tender, but in the locomotive right by the smokebox, and improving the speaker housing to a real quality of sound and volume and bass that we believe has not been seen before in model railways. We've changed the crank pin design to allow a little bit more play, to allow us to use those nice thick cast connecting rods that hasn't really been seen before on 4mm items. The etched items that we usually see, or the pressed items, don't capture that heavy bulk of the real connecting rods on a locomotive. We've had to allow a little bit of play in there as well to allow it to go around second radius. We've also had a huge amount of fun and games around the front bogie area, between the bogie and the cylinders, and trying to fit in all of that space and shape that is really hard to do on a model. In terms of other operating features, we've uprated the capacitor in the tender for the stay alive capacity. People have been very impressed with the Delsec, how they can lift it off the track for 5 to 10 seconds and it keeps powering, keeps the sound on, keeps the light on. And we want people to enjoy that in our Manor models as well. And of course the flyer box flicker, we've refined that to be an even nicer orangey glow to capture that warm look. Well, on a day like today, it's the last thing I want to talk about is fire. There's also some very small changes to things that the customer wouldn't particularly think they'd be too worried about, but in reality has a big impact. Routing of the wires, making the connection between the locomotive and the tender easier. Although I will take this opportunity to say we will be supplying the locomotive and tender pre-connected, and we suggest that it's only separated for servicing and not on a day-to-day basis. And also we've been designing all the packaging and things like that to really give the customer a lovely item to open when it arrives. So now you find me clambering next to Cook & Manor here, getting covered in dirt and grease to give you a little insight into the problems and struggles that we face with these models. As you can see here, we have the bogie wheel sets and we have the cylinders, and indeed there is a small bit of clearance. You have about an inch or so, which sure is enough on the real thing, very gentle curves and things like that, and even in a yard situation, the radius is nothing like any train set curves that we face. The problem we have is, firstly, our flanges are bigger. We have the big flanges on the wheels here, which suddenly start kiting into bits of piece like this, and people want to go around curves which the real thing doesn't do. So what can we do? What are our options? Well, we could move this wheel forward, and people would say that we're no longer a scale model. We could make the flanges smaller, like P4, but then it wouldn't run on 00 track. We could make the cylinders smaller, but again, we have the same problem that people claim that we're making it inaccurate. And of course, it would be inaccurate. Our aim is to make the best model we can with the limitations we face. So what do we do? Well, for our model here, we've taken a chunk out of the cylinders like this, but in a hideable way. This plate here is a separate item. It's a moulding you can clip on or clip off, and you have two options. You have the full front that we see here, or you have a very neat cutout, which you barely see in the shadow of a layout anyway, to allow you to go through the tighter radius curves. But it's not just the front axle that's a challenge for us making this model. It's also the axle behind me on the bogie that we'll look at now. So here we are behind the cylinder, and we have more challenges that face us for making the model and things that we have to try and scale down 76 times. As you see on the real man, you have this guard here that's behind the slide bar protecting the wheel set. Again, the tolerances aren't huge. This does actually connect with the slide bar here, but of course with our engineering tolerances, and we have to make this on 10, 15, 20,000 times over. It's a big item, moving fast, and we have to make it reliable for the model. Behind the wheel, again, I have 1 or 2 inches. Enough for the real thing, but nowhere near enough for the model we face. So this section here now on our model is removable. This allows that people who have slightly gentler curves to use it, and it may even work on your second radius, depending if you have kinks or bits and pieces like that or not. We haven't taken any compromises with the cylinder. We've just given the user the option of what bits they fit and leave behind. One of the things we've been really keen to capture on our Manor locomotive is that nice heavy feeling to the motion. Things like the connecting rods, there's a real depth to them. It's a depth that can't really be captured with a metal pressing or an etching, so we've got these lovely cast rods that really capture the weight of these moving. When you see a locomotive moving at speed, there's a lot of weight and force happening. We want to capture that in our models. And the best way to do it was with a cast item. The challenge is, of course, that we have to introduce a little bit of play, not a lot, a couple of thou here or there, in this area here, in this area here, to again let it go around the train set curves. That little additional tolerance is something we've added to the model and will be included in the final items that you'll be receiving soon. So, unfortunately, the locomotive positioning is not at its best to show this feature off, but this area here, this small bit of webbing between the spokes on these driving wheels, is a variation within the Manor tooling suite that we've completed. On Cook & Manor here, this area is filled in, but on the models that we're showing you today, it's not. It's a variation that existed. Within the initial releases, 3 of the models include this webbing, as they do on the prototype, and the rest do not. So of course we have covered both the Great Western version without the smokebox number plate and shed plate, and the BR version that had them both added. Another area covered in our Manor tooling suite is the varieties in chimneys. There's 2 main types, the original 1936 chimney the Manors were built with, and the 1952 rebuilds as well. Our models cover both. Cook & Manor behind me here has the 1952 BR chimney, whereas the models suit the prototype depicted. So the variation's not just on the locomotive, but the tenders too. Let's take a look. There's a number of variations on the tender as well that we've covered completely in our model we offer. Firstly, and I promise not to count them for you live on TV, however, I promise you they're the right number, rivets. We have the smooth-sided flush riveted version, as you see here on Cook & Manor, and the fully riveted version that is prototypically correct on other Manors. There's also some variation on the underframe. You can see the cutouts here. We have the wide-angled version that we get here, and also the narrow version that varies from Manor to Manor. Included in the accessory bag will be the overhead wire protector, as fitted to the tenders later in the life of the Manors. This will be included for the user to fit, and it's very neatly moulded, fully painted, ready to go onto your model. The water filler caps on our Manor are fully positionable, so if you want to model it next to a water tower open, feel free. We'd love to see your photos of it. Included with the model, we have a fully removable coal load that can be taken out and replaced with real coal if you wish. Within the tender itself, we have the DC decoder socket, we have one of the speakers, we have the stay alive pack, all making it very easy to remove. If you want to fit your locomotive with a decoder, you remove the tender body via a couple of screws and just fit whatever you wish. Our locomotive includes full cab detail as you'd expect from Accurascale. All of the pipes, the gauges, and everything is included there on the model as per the prototype. We're very thankful to our friends at the Didcot Railway Centre and Alan and his team at Model U, who have very kindly scanned some more Accurafolk for us, and they'll be coming out printed in full colour, ready to go with the Manor release. So one of the challenges we face with our model is the connection between the tender and the locomotive. On the real thing, the connection is purely mechanical with the supply of water, but on our model, we have to consider more than that. We have to consider electrical supply to the tender, the firebox clicker, the speakers, and everything coming from the tender to the locomotive. Therefore, we will supply the locomotive tender pre-connected via the connector, and we really suggest that you only take it apart for servicing and things like that. We will supply a video and a how-to document for how to separate your locomotive and tender, but we don't recommend this on day-to-day running. So, this is our Manor model. Thank you very much for joining me today for a detailed look at Accurascale's first steam locomotive, coming to you in the second half of this year. The model is still available to purchase for either directly from us or from our retailer base, details of which can all be found on our website. As ever, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe to see more of the things that we are up to at Accurascale. Realistic models at realistic prices.